don't do huge projects. I know this rule. There's a very good reason for this rule. If you do a monolithic, which is to say single solid block of a project, and something goes wrong, then you lose everything. My PhD is probably the worst example of this I know. When I began it, I was full of optimism and I burnt through it. And my first year went wrong and I had to change my supervisor. Never mind. It's only a year. We were going to take 4 anyway, 3.5 years. So they moved to another project. But now I'm behind and all the assessors are screaming at me going, why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? So I'm constantly doing catch up and the years go by and then I've got to deliver my final project, only the technology I'm using is not working. And so it takes another year because I'm relying on these facilities. And by the time I finished, I was 6 years in when my assessor basically failed me to the wall. I mean, he totally ripped into me and trashed what I'd done. And when he asked me why, I said, well, it was what I'd advised. This is what I've been told to do. And I remember him just literally looking at me and went, you were told wrong then. And I mean, I was just like 6 years wasted. I mean, think about that. That's a hell of a thing to be faced with. That you've just spent tens of thousands of pounds and 6 years of your life to be told, yeah, the advice was wrong. No, sorry. And he gave me a sort of off chance thing. The longest possible time he could give me was 1 year to resubmit. And he did well by me. You know, he actually gave me loads of notes and said, look, if you can make all these changes, and it was a lot of changes, then you've got a chance of passing. You know, it wasn't outright to fail me. It was a really nice guy, actually. He was really on my side. He was just, when he explained to me all the ways I'd gone wrong, you know, I got it. I wish I'd met this guy early. So I spent what I did is spend a couple of months drinking really heavily. And I pulled myself together and spent 8-9 months fixing this thing. And I had to bin everything, the whole lot. I binned it all. I mean, I've got 2 theses in the other room. Seriously, 2 and my first thesis is twice the size of my second and completely different. Nothing was the same. Nothing. I mean, I can't describe this to you. The first one was this whole virtual reality game built in a giant 3D cave room to do with picking up blocks, and the second one was measuring smoothness of motion using a headset. I mean, the only vaguely linking thing is they're both virtual reality. That was it. And luckily I am stubborn, clever, and I also threw money at it, I'll be honest, because I was let down by the facilities at the time, because unbeknownst to me, they've been scheduled for repair. The money wasn't there to repair them, so they're out of commission for ages. So I just bought myself a headset at a time when they were expensive. Yeah. So I spent a load of money, a load of effort. And when I resubmitted, luckily for me, the guy had come back in, was like, wow, you have 180 this. He says, you've taken one of the worst PhDs I've ever seen and turned it into one of the best I've ever seen. You know, and I remain incredibly proud of that to this day. But now we're at 7 years. I want to emphasize this to you. 7 years, tens of thousands of pounds, and there was a very high probability of all of that being wasted. Every single bit of it, and me just getting nothing. And people say, oh, I had the experience and you had the knowledge, but can you imagine the soul destroying negativity? I mean, at the 6 year point, if I'd have walked away at the 6 year point, I'd have had nothing but debt and shame to my name. You know? So don't do large projects, or rather break them down into chunks where every single chunk gives you something. I mean, this is something that's well known now in the software industry, obviously, because when writing sort of software in the old days, it was a bit simpler. People would make a giant project and do it start to finish as problems. Now they do a much more called agile methodologies, the Scrum and all these different things. It doesn't matter. If you're a software developer, you already know them. And if you're not, you don't care. The point being, what you do is you say, well, if I'm going to design a pedal, let's not take a load of people's money and promise them a great big thing that we don't know if we can deliver. Oh, yeah, I did it again, didn't I? Did I learn from the PhD? No. I just went off and promised everyone a Grand Classic pedal which was going to change the universe. Oh, maybe I've learned this time. I mean, it's only been a year since I took the Kickstarter money, almost just under it. Only been a year since then. Only. Never again. It's just that was too long still. So again, it's that binary pass fail thing. If you do an incremental project, let's say you're going to make a pedal and deliver a pedal, and you give it a list of features and say, I want these 10 features. That's reasonable. It's goals. But then the trick is to not say, right, these are the 10 features. You are having all 10 features. I think the trick is to borrow from the software agile developing, where you say, instead of saying, we're going to have this feature in this time, because those two are conflicting. You can't guarantee the time and the feature. You can guarantee the time, or you can guarantee the feature. So I think, what they do, and what I say is they say, well, we're going to have work units. We're going to say, we're just going to say, look, this is the time frame. I'm going to deliver your pedal in 3 months' time or 6 months' time. And you're going to get what I put into it in that time frame, really. And I think it'd be a lot. And I might have that list of 10 features to myself. But I think promising it up front the way I did was a real naive thing. Really naive, and bless me, I've given all the features to you guys. All of them and more. I've put more into it than I promised at the beginning. Oh, I'm so wrong. Oh, I am so tired because of this. But yeah. But it's done today. Today, this evening, I tested the last little bit of the daughter board, because I'll come back to the structure of the pedal later, but the daughter board is this final component that wasn't fully tested. I was confident I could do it, but I mean, I can do anything given the time. I promised time and features, and it's either time or features. I've learned that. That's the rule going forward. It's either time or features. You can either have it 6 months or you can have it with 10 features, but there's no guarantee that you can have both. Lesson learned there. Anyway, so I am really exhausted, but I'm in an incredible sense of happiness right now, because I know we're on the downhill, we're on the delivering it. I've got all the parts, the machines work, everything works, and I'm really looking forward to this. And over the last year, some of the things, let's call it a year and a half, let's be honest, year and a half, some of the things that have changed, it's crazy. When I started this project, really, if I'm absolutely honest, this project was born out of a simple thing, that I have a favourite distortion pedal I've always loved. I just hate the EQ on it, because the EQ on it is it's treble and bass, and it sounds like a hi-fi EQ, which is nothing like a guitar. So you always go to this pedal and it sounds great, and you turn the bass up and then down, and you put it in the middle, because you go, I don't like that, it just makes it sound woofy. And then you do the same with the treble, and you go, it just makes it sound hissy. And so all it really was is a pedal I hated the EQ on. I could have just done that, but no. So down this interesting black hole, some of the things I've done and discovered, first of all, was really redesigning how I think about guitar EQ. To be specific to the guitar. The whole treble bass thing is because it's an easy, cheap, small circuit that's commonly available. So that's why everyone does treble and bass. Guitar is not treble and bass. Guitar is mid-range, people. We all know guitar is mid-range, maybe upper mids and lower mids, but it's all mids. Cymbals are treble. Bass guitars and kick drums are bass. We don't need those two EQ, but we know this. So I built all these really cool EQs. So that's really cool. I've learned a lot about EQ and tuning it. Really cool. I've even learned some. I have own studio EQs and stuff I bought to learn more about it. So the EQ is amazing. I learned that. Then I wanted the to shape the harmonics, and they do that with little switches on my favorite pedal. Previous favorite, honestly, mine's now the favorite. Mine's well away the favorite, and they little switches. And I thought, well, why have switches? We can just have a rotary control. And I built it, and it sucked. I did loads of iterations, it still sucked. I went away and designed the whole new circuit, something I'd never seen anyone else do. Just had this idea about compositing a few things. So that's totally new, I think. It's a really new circuit. And wow, it's just brilliant. It's just an amazing circuit. It's genuinely fantastic. I can think of one way you could do it kind of even cooler with two knobs, but I want to do it with one knob. So it's a one knob thing. And that's the thing that's cool about it. So that was cool. New circuit. So I kept with these new circuits, and it just kept on going on. I went down this black hole of it. And I didn't really offer soft switching at the beginning the way it is now. I'd thought of just using this little momentary switch goes click, click, and maybe having some switching of a relay. But then I ended up talking to people at the guitar shows and got into this massive deep dive about soft switching. Oh, it was another black hole. Soft switching is such a black hole. It deserves a whole piece too. And does it make a little bit of noise? Does it have tactile? Can you use it with your fingers on the desktop? Can you feel it under your feet? What's the travel distance? And then all the horrible nightmares of certain pedal companies with failing switches. And I've ended up spending a fortune on foot switches. I've got literally hundreds, actual hundreds of spare switches that are just going to go in the bin because over my testing, I've got no, they're wrong. They're not the right one. They make the wrong noise. They feel wrong. They're not reliable enough. Oh, so yeah, no, black holes of this stuff, and the daughter board thing. So I've got this plug-in daughter board. So basically take the back off the pedal and you plug in a secondary effect. In this case, low pass filter, but you can swap it out. That was not intended in any way to be in there. I don't think I even promised that, right? I promised an effect on an expression pedal. And when I started this, that was going to be fixed. It was going to be one circuit board with an effect built onto it permanently. There was no daughter board system. There was no pin out. What happened with that is as I made the more complex EQs, and I started getting into the more complicated switching, I realised I couldn't fit it all on the ruddy board. I couldn't fit it on the board. And I shrank down to these little 1/8 resistors, and I was like, I fit. And I bought all them preemptively. And then that, I was still ramming it in there, and it wasn't enough. And then I realised after the 1/8, I thought, well, I've made two circuit boards, 2 layers. And as soon as I went to 2 layers, I thought, well, make it detachable. And then this whole cascade thing. So your pluggable daughter boards that I put in are another massive black hole that was unintended. So I've got the black hole of switches. And another interesting thing happens off the back of these black holes of excitement and interest, which was that someone, amazing, cool person, gave me a solder conveyor. The massive thing that just weighs is like 70 kilos and it's like 6 foot long. Overkill, complete overkill. But when they gave it me, I thought, I could run my own production layout. And I started looking at different things. I looked at pick and place machines. I found the open source one. And then like another light bulb went off, didn't it? And I thought, well, hang on a minute. Why am I using 1/8 tiny resistors that I have to bend with the wires? They're still wired resistors, just smaller. Why can't I use surface mount? Because I'd already started a little. I'd already sort of looked at it and hand soldered. I had hand soldered some of let's call them the half-size chips. And I thought, well, hang on a minute, that's still a nuisance. If I had the machinery, because someone's given me the solder oven already to do the soldering. If I had the machine that placed the parts, I could use like quarter-size chips. All my problems are solved. Of course, that's been a black hole since February. Getting those machines up and running. So on the back of this project, I've done some incredible stuff, but I do look at the stress levels, and it's been incredibly stressful for the simple reason that I can't justify. No, not justify. It would be wrong of me to pursue financial products that make me a quick buck. Oh, my phone's going flat. It would be wrong of me to pursue a project that makes me money, just, and delays this one. I feel. I do. I feel that would be wrong of me. I didn't want to do it. There's been a couple of points along the way where I've said I'm going to do it. I nearly cracked. A couple of times I spent a couple of weeks designing the Tone Lord 2, and I thought about releasing it. I admit I did that. And I looked at it and went, no, it's the wrong thing to do this, because if I do that, if I want to do the Tone Lord 2 correctly and fairly, I want to use the same technology I'm putting into the Grand Classic, really. I want to make it compatible, so why I can't release it before it. And so there's been a lot of panics like that. So money-wise, I've really struggled because I can't release any new projects till this is done. I mean, what kind of human being would I be? What kind of person I'd be, this is there's a lot of honor in this stuff. You guys, you trust me to spend your money wisely. And that's my fault that I haven't been able to deliver. I'm going off sideways to make money. I think that was an absolute last resort. If I was about to lose my business, I'd do it. And I'd say to you, look, I'm on the edge. This is it. We have to. And I've come close, but no, not there. So yeah, so it's been a journey, I think. And as I say, I don't regret this one, because through this journey, I have gained some incredible technologies, the ability to do surface mount, the idea of actually opening up my services to other people, because I think now I've invested all this time and money, and having learned how it's made my product so much better, but also, how ridiculously difficult and inaccessible it actually is to do it, because it's really hard work. It's made me think, well, maybe this is so I can help other people a little bit. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, so here we are. Over the next few weeks, you should see some tone test videos coming out with audio in. You should see some production videos with me making units. I've got the artwork to finalise, and I want to make one etched circuit board of the daughter board, because that's on principle. I always do that. I would not do it otherwise. But we're done. We're over the hurdle. A year, just shy of a year. The next projects are not going to be like this. They're going to be much more incremental. I'm going to prove it to you. When I do the Tone Lord 2 and the other one I'm not mentioning, which is going to come before it, you're just going to see those pop out, and I'm going to prove that I've got my stuff together. And you can. I think I've already proven you can trust me in terms of doing the right thing and making sure I always put the hours in and not go off and do some other project. I haven't. I've stuck to you. Your project is still primary. It's been primary throughout. And even though I've had some horrific hurdles, the loss of my cat Batfink, obviously, that really, I am barely functioning in that. It's over 6 months later, and I still wake up in a fugue of depression and absolutely just, ready to crack. So some I've soldiered on, whatever, fought on. I made it on. But I think I've done the right thing, and I think I've stood by everything, my promises. It has taken longer than I could even imagine or believe. But I can see every step of why. And I think it's one of those things, really, I should have given you less. I should have just said, this is where we're up to, this is what you're getting. But I didn't. I chose not to do that. And I'm grateful for everyone's hung on in there. And I hope the result is worth your wait. I believe it is. I really do. And yeah, and I say the future products I do will not have these mega delays, because I'm going to learn to box them off in terms of time better and say, this is the window of time. That's what's going to go in the window, and it's going to work. Anyway, I have witted at you for 20 minutes almost. It's late. I'm just happy, and I look forward to showing your stuff. And yeah, in closing words, honestly, don't do big projects. They kill you. Do little projects where you can afford to lose, or afford to adapt, or afford to change. If you're going to do a big project, segment it into multiple separate pieces. If you've got 10 parts you want to go in a pedal, segment that and say, well, as long as we get 2 or 3, we'll release. Or just release at every stage, as it were. Give yourself a deadline. Say this is sufficient, and every other feature's a bonus that'll go in the next pedal or something. I don't know the exact way, but Anyway, laters.